For the base of this mango strawberry hot sauce, I'm using a wide variety of peppers, starting with these yellow ones, which are Ahi Fantasy. This is about 1.5 pounds of peppers total. I also have these red Bishop's Crowns, which are a cool shape, great flavor. These are Fatalis. I love growing Fatalis, and I'm actually growing a huge Fatali plant right now that I'm going to make a video on, so subscribe if you want to see that when it comes out this fall. I've got Biquinhos, which are another favorite of mine. And this last one's pretty cool. I actually made this pepper by crossbreeding a Fatali and a Biquinho last year. So starting out, I'm just going to give a rough chop on all of these peppers and put them aside in a bowl. I'm taking the stems off when I chop them and just chopping each one in half or maybe thirds to increase the surface area and allow the brine to come into contact with all parts of the pepper during the ferment. Getting into our other ingredients, this is going to be a mango strawberry sauce, so I'm using 4 mangoes as the base of it. I'm just chopping them into cubes and putting them into a bowl to get ready to go into our jar. For the remainder of our fresh ingredients, I have 3 limes that I'm slicing into thin wedges, followed by about 2/3 a pint of strawberries that I'm giving a rough chop and removing the stems, and lastly 1 white onion that I'm just giving a rough chop to as well. And then I'm going to give that all a good mix in the bowl. With everything chopped, it's time to fill our jar. I'm alternating layers of peppers and fruit so that the flavors mix together well, but I'm ending with a large layer of peppers to keep the fruit well below the surface of our brine. This is me making our brine. It's a 4% brine by weight, made with sea salt and unchlorinated water. And I'm just going to cover the contents of our jar with that. I want to put in enough brine to cover all my ingredients, but still leave some headroom in the jar. So now that I have enough to cover the ingredients, I'm just using a Ziploc bag with some water in it to force all those ingredients below the surface for the duration of the ferment. And now that I have that bag in place to keep all of our ingredients under the surface of the brine, all that's left to do is put the lid on and then insert our airlock into the lid. Here's what our jar looks like prior to fermenting. I'm going to put it up in a cool, dark place for a couple weeks, and I'm excited to see how it comes out. And here's what our jar looks like after 3 weeks of fermentation. Opening this thing up, it smells amazing. It smells so tropical and fruity, but also has a good spice to it. I'm using a slotted spoon to scoop the contents of the jar into my blender. Some brine will carry over with it, and that's fine because we do need some liquid and some of the salt for our sauce too. I didn't think through fermenting the limes with the peel on them, so I actually scooped them out because I don't want the bitterness of that rind in my final sauce, but I think their flavor still carries through. You can see how even though I used a slotted spoon, some brine did carry over into the blender, so the only other liquid I'm going to add is 1 cup of distilled white vinegar, just to give this sauce more of a classic hot sauce bite to it, and then it's on to the blender. I am going to cook this sauce, so here I'm transferring it to a pot. I love the color it came out after blending. And this is actually kind of a funny story. I started cooking it on the stove in my house, and very quickly when it started heating up, gassed myself out of the kitchen. So I ended up transferring it to the camp stove on the back porch and bringing it to a boil there. After letting the sauce boil for 15 minutes outside, I'm back in the kitchen. This step is completely optional based off the consistency that you would like your sauce to be. It's perfectly fine like this as more of a chunky salsa, but I prefer mine a little thinner, so I'm going to strain about half the pulp out of my sauce, just using a ladle and this fine mesh. I'm pushing my ladle down into the pulp just to try to get every drop out of it, but the pulp itself I'm not going to let go to waste. It has the same great flavor as our sauce, so I hope to make a couple videos in the future about things that I like to do with this, but it is great to have, so set it aside and keep it. And then I'm going to add all of that liquid that I strained out of the sauce back into the main pot, so effectively reducing the pulp by half. And here you can see the final consistency that I'm working with in the sauce. Now we're back outside at the camp stove where I'm going to give this one last boil before bringing it back inside to bottle in some sterilized bottles that I've prepared. I'm just going to use a funnel and ladle to fill these bottles, and since I thinned the sauce, I will add a stopper to them and then the lid. I'm also going to flip them upside down once that lid is added, and that's just so that the hot sauce will sterilize the top of the bottle and that stopper after I close it. Once again, I just love the color of this sauce. I couldn't have planned it any better with how the yellow ahi fantasies combined with the mango, strawberry, and red peppers to make this gorgeous shade of orange. It does taste just as good as it looks too, if not better. This one is so sweet, so savory, and it also has a good kick from those fatales and other hot peppers that I threw in. So definitely would recommend trying this if you like a little bit of sweet heat on your food. After bottling all my sauce, this is what my final product looks like. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this recipe, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you have suggestions for the recipe or if you've tried it yourself, leave a comment and check out my channel for more pepper growing and pepper recipe content.